Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Art of MMA. I'm Mike Ginn. That's professional kickboxer, the mechanic, Brandon Catino. Of course, he's got a fight coming up in September, so stay tuned for that. Today, we are here to talk about a lot of stuff. We got UFC Nashville, Jake Paul, Nate Diaz. You know, it's boxing, but it's still MMA related, of course, so everyone wants to talk about that. PFL 7, the first round of the playoffs. We'll talk about that, a couple big upsets in that. And then we'll finish off also talking about the PFL, Amanda Serrano, and what that means with her jumping to the PFL pay-per-view division. Of course, big-time boxer, former MMA fighter as well, so it's not like she's brand new. But we'll talk about all that later. Of course, head over to the shop, fightersfirst.shop. Get all the latest collections. Let our apparel be a part of your story. Like I said, Mechanic's getting ready to gear up, get a strap season, as he says, getting ready to come back, win that belt in September, so stay tuned. Of course, just announced Kate Clement's got a fight coming up in September as well. And there may be one more coming up in October. I can't actually announce it yet, but Alberto might be getting ready to fight soon as well for Luke. So we'll talk about all that as they come up. Of course, stay tuned to our social media channels, get all the information. Brandon, how you feeling today, buddy?
Feeling good, man. You know, training camp's about to really get started. So I'm looking forward to the grind again.
Yeah, I saw you said some pad work was going well, and you were getting kind of hyped up a little bit. So about to hop into that mode, which means Brandon's going to be real mean to me because, you know, when he starts getting that fight mode, he's not nice to me. I mean, he's not nice to me anyway. I don't know who I'm kidding, but he's a little nicer sometimes. I don't know, maybe football season will soften him a little bit if the Giants start hot. So we'll see. But Brandon, let's go ahead and jump into what we're here to talk about today. Starting off with UFC Nashville, of course, Cory Sandhagen versus Rob Font. You had Tatiana Suarez back in action. You had Dustin Jacoby, my guy Diego Lopez, a lot to get into. But let's jump into that main event real quick. Not the most exciting main event that people were really expecting between Cory Sandhagen and Rob Font. Cory took care of business, 50-45 across the board, used a lot of his wrestling. Turns out, coming into the fight, he was having issues with his elbow, a couple of infections. And then that led to, I think in the first round, him tearing his tricep, which a lot of people didn't know. So he stuck to what he was good at, had the advantage over Rob Font on the ground, did that, took over and got the win. What did you make of that fight?
Yeah, man, like you said, you know, both guys, you know, were really, both of them were taking this fight on short notice. Like, yes, you know, Cory Sandhagen, you know, kind of did himself a favor and the crowd as well by trying to stay on this card, you know, and you know, they got him a pseudo replacement. But I remember when you're taking a fight on short notice, you're going to be a little reserved. You know, you're not
going to get the win.
Yeah, you know, you're not going to kind of go all out, you know, because, you know, instead of using maybe game plan A, he was using game plan B and C, which is what he did. You know, he used his wrestling. You know, he really wasn't on the feet. Because, you know, Rob Font is a dangerous guy on the feet. You know, you saw his last fight that he had with
Adrian.
Yep, Adrian Yanez. You know, so and Cory Sandhagen wasn't trying to let that happen to him. And which coach said, you know, he got himself hurt in the first round, and so he decided to go to his wrestling. I mean, hey, you know, like I said, it wasn't the most entertaining fight. You know, as you I'm sure as you probably saw online, Dana White supposedly left in the fourth round. You know, but hey, man, he got the job done. Like I said, man, prize fighters. It's about trying to get paid, trying to get these W's, and that's what he did.
I think if there's anybody in the division that's earned the right to kind of have a boring performance, it might be Cory Sandhagen. Like, the guy's had more highlights than almost anybody in that division. Especially like the Frankie Edgar knockout and all the other stuff he's done, the Marlon Vera fight he just came off of. Also, and even Ariel said this, you don't know why. Nobody knows why Dana left in the fourth round. It might have had nothing to do with the fight. Like, even Ariel said, he might have had to go to the bathroom. Like, you don't know why he left. And he very rarely does leave during a fight. He might not always come in the cage, but he very rarely leaves during the fight. And according to Cory Sandhagen, he had nothing but good things to say after the fight for Cory. Like I said, a lot of people didn't know during the fight that Cory got injured in the first round. That's why he really stuck to his wrestling because, as Cory said afterwards, if you have an advantage, it's like you're not going to back down Shaq in the paint. You're going to stick outside and shoot three-pointers, right? So yeah, I give Cory the benefit of the doubt. This guy's coming and ready to bang against any opponent he's ever had. So this one, like I said, Rob Font was a short notice injury replacement from the original main event. And props to Rob stepping up, just a couple months after his last performance, or not even, it's been since April, so it's been a few months, but he wasn't prepared for this. He jumped in, took the advantage, tried to get a main event. Unfortunately for Rob, that means he's lost 3 out of 4, but for Cory, that means he's won 3 in a row. And kind of keeps his name in the conversation. He called out, he wants to, when Merab's healthy, he'd like to fight Merab. What do you think? You think that's the next fight for him, or what do you think should be next?
I think it really kind of depends on this title fight coming up with Aljo and O'Malley. I feel like saying if Aljo wins and he stays true to his word, where it is that he wins and then he vacates the belt, moves up to 145, then to me you got Cory Sandhagen versus Merab for the vacant title. To me that makes sense. But if Sean O'Malley wins, most likely the UFC would probably want a Sean O'Malley versus Cory Sandhagen fight than a Sean O'Malley versus a Merab fight, because they're not trying to see Sean O'Malley get wrestled like that. But I mean Cory Sandhagen, he could do the same thing as well.
I know this kind of sidetracks a little bit. Man, it makes my skin crawl every time Sean O'Malley talks about like how he's this top contender, pretending he beat Peter Yan. Like, talk about one of the worst MMA decisions. And I know so many people have defended that decision, like pinpointing like how he could have won this round or how he could have won that. 6 takedowns, multiple times, like a massive amount of time on the ground. There's no way Peter Yan lost that fight. And for the judges to give Sean O'Malley that, and then of course Sean O'Malley gets catapulted here into the title shot, is a joke. And him running around like he deserves it, and of course, after he lost to Chito Vera, he was running around like he didn't lose. Right? I'm still undefeated. That's just kind of his mindset. I get it, but it's just crap that they keep promoting it like that. DC and all the people on the show talking about how great Sean O'Malley. Oh, he beat Peter Yan. No, he didn't. Stop it. Like, don't have this revisionist history. And I know you're working for the company and you're doing what you're supposed to do, but that shit irritates the crap out of me. Like, come on, it's all the same thing.
It's not in the record books, man. Sean O'Malley got the W, so that's all what they're saying.
I know. Yeah. Well, I almost pick against Aljo almost every fight. 100%, I'm picking Aljo to ragdoll his ass that fight, because he's not going to stand with him. He's going to take him down. He's going to get his back, and that's just going to be over by the second round.
Yeah,
that's just my prediction. Write it down. Paul Heyman, that's a guarantee. Let's go. Also on that card, real quick, what do you think Rob Font just kind of is he a gatekeeper at this point?
Nah, man, nah. Like I said, he was on the fall. Then he got that good win against Yanez. To me, I think, what is it? He's like ranked, I think, number 7. So maybe anybody like after him would be good. I mean, I know.
A lot of people right next to him though. Like,
he's already fought. I know Dominic Cruz is ranked 9. He's available. They haven't fought. But again, Dominic Cruz is a wrestler, so I don't know if he really wants to try to go up against another wrestler like that. But to me, anybody after that, I think would be a good fight.
I like seeing him against Nurmagomedov. Like, Nurmagomedov had to pull out of this fight. He was supposed to be in this one. He's 11. He wants to jump up. Make him fight Rob Font. Rob Font took his place. Let's see what that looks like. So that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, or he could go up against his original opponent, which was who he was supposed to fight in Boston, but he got hurt. Was it Sung Yadong, or
I thought he already fought Yadong.
No, I think he was supposed to fight him, but he got hurt. That's why Rob Font was able to step up.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be a fun fight. 2 guys that love to bang. Ironically, I think he just got held up at gunpoint too. Was that like, didn't Yadong Song just get robbed or something like that?
I don't know.
It's a crazy story I read the other day. Elsewhere on there, Tatiana Suarez, like the strawweight enigma, right? Like, injuries robbed her of almost 4 years of her career. She beats Andrade like it's nothing in the second round with a guillotine. I always say if a fighter's talking about retirement, they probably should retire. Andrade's talked about it a few times. I think maybe it might be time, just because if you're not into it 100%, you're not going to perform 100%. It's just, you can get hurt in that cage. Suarez, second round guillotine. And still undefeated. Is there anything else other than a title shot for her waiting?
Yeah, I mean, Tatiana Suarez, I mean, she could be the next one for a title shot. I mean, of course, you got what's the name also too waiting. I don't think they would have her and was it Yan Chanel fight it out, because then you're taking out a contender. So I think maybe you just let them both wait, and you just see how the title fight goes with Zhang and Lemos coming up, and then you go from there.
You still got Rose sitting there, and you still got Carla coming back from having a baby. Like, there's so many fighters sitting there above her, but undefeated, like undefeated. You know, she had a title shot waiting until she got hurt. She's flirted between the flyweight and strawweight divisions. Of course, Alexa Grasso and Valentina getting ready to fight in September, so there's that. Man, so much stuff going on with her, but stuck at number 4 behind, like you said, Jan's got a title fight waiting. Rose pretty much whenever she wants. Carla pretty much whenever she wants. And then, of course, Zhang and Lemos. So it's a very crowded strawweight division. It's exciting for fans, right? Like, there's a lot of none of those. Okay, Carla and Rose was very boring, but none of the rest of that is boring. Like, all these fighters come to, and you got Mackenzie Dern like sitting up there, coming up hard, coming quickly. So just so many great fighters, and that women's strawweight division might be one of the best women's divisions in all of MMA. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, strawweight's definitely up there. I think it probably is the top division,
at least in the UFC. Like, the bantamweight's pretty much the same faces at the top of that division. Flyweights got mixed up a little bit with Alexa pulling off the upset. You got a lot of younger flyweights kind of coming up, but right now, top of the division, strawweights just jam packed. Also on that card, your guy Dustin Jacoby got the big knockout over in Nchukwu. I didn't see that. Nchukwu's usually super tough. He will drag it in deep waters if he can. This time, Jacoby just caught him, rocked him, and put him down. What you think of that?
Yeah, man. Shout out to Dustin Jacoby. He definitely had a height disadvantage or reach disadvantage, but he went out to do his thing. Like I said, to me, he is the better kickboxer. He's a better striker. From his time hanging out in Glory, and that's exactly what he used to get the job done.
Yeah, he was on a hot streak until he ran into those 2 losses in a row. So this is good to see him bounce back. My guy Diego Lopez, of course, former Luke's champion, took his last fight on very short notice against Evloev, and then dragged it deep, all the way to the decision. A very close fight. Came back against Gavin Tucker, took him out in the first round. Big submission there. So shout out to Diego. Tanner Boser bounced back, got the win over Kimura with a decision. He'd been out for a while. Ludwig Klein bounced back, got a win over Baha Mondes. I always butcher his name. I try to say it too fast. Fans of the show know I butcher a lot of names, so it's okay. Kyler Phillips, coming off that suspension, got the win over Ronnie Barcelos. Kyler looked good. Do you think that suspension will hurt him in the rankings, or do you think it's just business as usual at this point?
Business as usual, because again, it's the people who are putting people in the rankings. I think is whatever how they feel he looked.
I mean, he was only suspended for a few months. It wasn't like he got like a 2-year layoff or anything like that. But still, suspension is a suspension. Carlston Harris with the big submission win over Jeremiah Wells. Looked great. Billy Q, Damon Jackson. I wasn't really sure how that fight would look because Billy's always exciting. Damon tries to get that guillotine and lock on you. This time, Billy got the win. Unanimous decision. Cody Durden got the win over Jake Hadley. Jake Hadley had all kinds of problems coming into this fight with weight cut and everything else. Did not look great. Had some issues after the fight, so he had just a bad week. So Cody Durden with the win there. Sean Woodson, catchweight fight because of weight issues with Buzaka, got the win, and Almabayev got the win. Rear naked choke over Osborne in the opening fight of the night. Brandon, any of those other fights kind of stick out to you as highlights?
Yeah, Billy Q, man. Like I said, saying unanimous decision, man. Went out there, did his thing. Like I said, Damon Jackson usually kind of, like I said, I think his nickname is the Leech. So he tries to just be all over you, like a wet blanket. But Billy Q, he wasn't having it.
Yeah, Damon's one of the ones guys. Like he flirted with retirement, made another run, got a few wins, and now he's kind of sticking around a little bit. But unfortunately, as much as I love Damon Jackson, always good friend to Art of MMA back in the day, I think this might be it for him, man. I really do. I don't see him sticking around and avoiding getting cut this time because he's lost a few in a row. But he is always available. He always takes fights on short notice whenever Dana needs him. So maybe he does stick around a little bit. But shout out to Billy Q, of course, here in Tampa, Gracie South, right down in South Tampa. If you drive by the gym, you'd miss it. You would never see it. It's on a small, tiny road, like off the main road. So there's like a main road called 60 Kennedy, goes straight down through the middle of Tampa, right? Go up a couple blocks, back in behind the Walmart, little small one-way road. That's where Gracie South is. All the best gyms, you can never find them. Unlike Tiger Showman, it's like a big-ass building, isn't
it? Yeah.
I saw it on map on that. Tiger Showman's like, you don't miss that. It's like,
here it is. They're usually all in shopping plazas.
Yeah. But that is UFC Nashville. Despite the fact that it had a kind of a letdown as far as the main event goes, a lot of moving in the rankings happened because of this card. So it's going to be a lot of interesting things to see what happens after this. We won't spend much time on it, but PFL 7, the start of the playoffs took place in San Antonio, Texas last week. My guy Jesus Pinedo representing Peru. Of course, my wife is Peruvian, family Peruvian. First, he pulled off the big upset right against Brendan Loughnane, got himself in the playoffs, and then he just dominated Bubba Jenkins in this main event. What did you think of that?
The man missed weight, got deducted a point because of it in the playoffs, and he still went out there and handled his business. He's moving on. He's in the final, ready to fight for $1 million. Hey man, dude, this is why people like to say, up and coming young fighters, man, you should try on the PFL because you never know what can happen. You get in the playoffs, man, and here you are, fighting for $1 million. Saying he went out there, did his thing, man. Bubba Jenkins, man, an established name in the PFL. He
was having a great season.
Exactly. One of their stars, and man, it just wasn't his night. I mean, he got beat bad.
Yeah, he looked beat up. He looked bad. He looked Earl Spence beat up. Like he got beat. And even he would say it. He's like, I chose the wrong night to have a bad night. But Bubba's always super tough. Love watching Bubba Jenkins fight. But Pinedo, I think, is a future lightweight. I don't think he'll stick around featherweight too much. Obviously, did what he had to do for this tournament. Of course, he'll be facing Gabriel Braga, who I guess is an upset over Chris Wade because of the name, but Chris Wade also took this on short notice because Kabalev got dropped because of injury. So Chris Wade got elevated to the playoffs. So you'll see Braga now facing Pinedo in the finals. It's got to favor Pinedo though, right? The way he's going to be on that hot streak.
Yeah. The same, but like you said, Chris Wade, another person, with an established name. Man, like those guys, man, Chris Wade, Bubba Jenkins been going back and forth. You kind of thought this is where these guys are gonna make it happen where they can see each other in the finals, and neither one of them is going to the finals. So again, man, that's what it is, man. It's the fight game, man. Things can happen. You just never know. But hopefully, maybe they'll still have Chris Wade and Bubba Jenkins maybe fight on the finale anyway.
Yeah,
undercard.
You can see that. Yeah, absolutely. They like to also bring out some stuff. There's talk of Kayla now fighting that card. Though Kayla also just came out and said she had her hopes up for a Cyborg fight all summer, and then now she doesn't think she'll fight at all this year. But there was also an announcement that she may fight on that November card. So we'll see how that works out. A lot of moving parts in PFL. Of course, they're supposed to announce this month maybe the merger with Bellator. And of course, if that happens, then her and Cyborg are all game, right? Like, Cyborg will fight Kat first and then maybe Kayla next. But we'll see. Kat keeps ducking that fight, so we'll see. Joshua Silveria with the win over Ty Flores. He's moving on in the light heavyweight division. Big knee TKO in the first round. What you think of that?
Yeah, man, I mean, it's like, it's one of the things like, like these guys are still like, up, like not well established people, but again, like I said, you get into this tournament, man, and you try to make things happen for yourself.
Yeah, not a lot of name value as far as the light heavyweight division. The only name you probably knew going into it was Martin Hamlet because he's been around for like 3 years now at this point. And he lost too. He also got knocked out in the first round by Impa Kasanagane. Say that 10 times fast. So now it's going to be Silveria and Impa in the final. I'm not sure who I favor in that one because I got to be telling you, Impa looked like a beast. Like that dude came in that cage looking ripped. I would have said Silveria because of experience, but I'm not so sure. Who do you think is probably the favorite in that one?
Yeah, I probably would say Silveria because of where he trains at, who his dad is and everything like that. Like saying, like he does have that name value. Like I said, he is a star. I mean, well, he's a prospect, and I say he's one of those people where it's like he can make his money in the PFL, and if time comes, he gets a little bit older, then that's where he can maybe eventually go to the UFC where everybody says they always want to go. But like I say, why now? Like I said, like he to me is a case in point of a young fighter getting that chance to get $1 million in the PFL, and like I said, he could do this this year. He could do it again next year, and maybe one more year. That's $3 million that guy could get each year, and then eventually go somewhere else if need be.
Yeah, he's 30, but he's not like he's 12-1. Doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on his body. You're absolutely right. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think that's gonna be a fun final for that one. Elsewhere on the card, you saw Espinoza get the win against Diggs. Gene over Omar with a first round TKO. Lisa Malden got the win over Desiree Yanez with a rear naked choke in the flyweight division. Anthony Ivy with the rear naked choke over Carson Hardman. Chelsea Haggett got the rear naked choke over Kai Bennett. It was crazy, like 3 straight fights. And then opening up, Billy Akenya, Elakana got the split decision over Chuck Campbell. Any of those other fights kind of highlights for you?
Nah, I mean, I really was kind of really more into the playoffs for this one.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype over a couple of those women flyweight division fights. Of course, next year they're going to introduce the flyweight division, which goes into something we'll be talking about a little bit later with Amanda Serrano. Where does she fit? Because she's fought in a couple of different divisions, but she's got a lot more muscle on her body now. So that'll be interesting to see where that one kind of fits in. But yeah, another fun PFL card. They'll be back in a couple of weeks. They don't fight this week. They'll be back, I think, the week after that for the next round of the playoffs. And then that brings us to probably the most talked about event last weekend. Definitely the most watched event of last weekend. Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. We don't talk about a lot of boxing on here, but it is MMA related, of course. Not only Nate Diaz, you talk about the co-main event with Chris Avila and Jeremy Stevens. Jeremy Stevens, once again, is one step closer to bare knuckle fighting. As he gets another loss, he looked bad. He had a couple highlights, but really most of the time Avila just jabbed him to death and comboed him and just tore him up. I watched that fight against my will just because I really wanted to see Jeremy Stevens get knocked out. But one more fight and we'll have to figure that out. He's now 0-2 in boxing, or 0-1-1 in boxing. So I think it was like some weird no contest or something in the first one. Amanda Serrano got the win over Heather Hardy, another MMA-related fight, because, of course, now Amanda's going to the PFL. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Heather Hardy, of course, has spent quite a bit of time in MMA recently. Serrano just dominated her. Sorry, that was actually the co-main event. Sylvie got the win over Silva, KO in the 4th round. Green over Curry with a unanimous decision, and Alan Sanchez opened it up against Angel Beltran with a decision. But the main event, Jake Paul, 10-round decision over Nate Diaz. Dropped him in the 5th. Dropped Nate in the 5th. Nate responded with the guillotine in the 9th. What did you make of this mess?
I mean, man, both guys got what they wanted from this fight. Nate Diaz got the bag. I think he's suppose he got like 10 to 15 mil for this fight.
I think like 20.
And I mean, hey, it could be more, pay-per-view points.
Well, they did a really cool thing. They did a split promotion. So his promotion and MVP split all this stuff. So It's definitely the biggest of his career.
And then Jake Paul, he needed a bounce back win after the loss to a Tommy Fury. So I mean, hey man, both guys, like I say, both guys got what they wanted. It was I mean, saying I don't know, I really don't know how serious Nate Diaz took this fight. Like you say, doing doing the guillotine, acting like he won and everything like that. But hey man, like
don't forget picking the leg in the first.
Yeah, but hey man, but Jake Paul came out. But Jake Paul came out hot in that first round. He basically almost tried to take Diaz out right then and there as well. But yeah, man, like I said, it was what it was. Both guys got what they wanted. It was it was a little entertaining here and there. And yeah, let's see what's next. I know Jake Paul's always talking about doing an MMA match with him in the PFL. But Nate Diaz seems like he wants to go back to the UFC. Like I said, man, to me, if you're Nate Diaz, you got to think about where can I get the most money from? Like, of course, all right, hey, if you go back to the UFC, you get that Conor McGregor trilogy fight. But to me, man, if you go to the PFL, you can probably get it. You probably get more bank still there as well, and with another Jake Paul fight, and then you see what else can happen, but. I mean, it's kind of up in the air for Nate Diaz on what he wants to do.
Yeah, I think Nate
what he can do is options.
I think Nate backtracked a little bit on the UFC thing after the fight. Let's be clear a couple things. I'll be jumping to Nate Diaz first. One, Nate Diaz did leave as a free agent, but it's not like they were begging him to stick around. Other than that Tony Ferguson fight, and you've seen how Tony's looked the last few fights. Other than that Tony Ferguson fight, Nate Diaz has been a punching bag for years. Punch drunk, doesn't look like he's in any fight. He had one shot against Leon Edwards late in the fight, but other than that, he's been dominated for the last few years inside that cage. That's not anything anybody's clamoring to see him back into the UFC. That's a Nate Diaz thing in his brain that somehow he thinks he can always go home because Dana might have said it just because he thinks, haha, Dana, he's gone. I don't have to deal with him anymore. He did after the fight say, I'd be willing to entertain the PFL thing as long as Real Fight Inc. gets mixed like co-promotion, like they did for this MVP fight, which we've seen PFL work with other people. I wouldn't be surprised if they said, okay, we'll give you at least billing and pay you as a fighter. I don't know how they make that work, but I'm sure PFL would if it was worth it financially for them. I also don't think Nate Diaz has any other options. He could take another boxing fight and make a couple bucks, but he's not going to make it fighting anybody other than like a Jake Paul that people are going to buy that pay-per-view. And even Logan Paul now has his own thing set up with Dylan Dennis, which flip a coin whether Dennis even shows up for that fight. My bet is that he doesn't, and Logan's going to end up either off that card or fighting somebody else because KSI is fighting Tommy Fury now. So I was going to say KSI could be a possible opponent, but now he's fighting Tommy Fury to try to one-up Jake Paul. So
yeah, that's the main event. I think Logan and Dylan Dennis is the co-main.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's really going to be watching that card, but we'll see. But that said, and also shout out to Logan Paul, still in his ring gear, left SummerSlam after the opening fight. I wonder why they were the opening match. I mean, it made sense because they're the high flyers, but jumped on a plane from Detroit to Dallas to get there for his brother's fight. So shout out to Logan Paul. That's dedication for your brother. Still in his ring gear with a black eye from the fight. I'm still there. Say wrestling isn't real, check out Logan's eye. He caught one. And that was a hell of a match with Ricochet too. But yeah, as far as Jake Paul goes, he said before this is going to be a boxing, then next year transition to MMA with the big super fight pay-per-views. Of course, he wants Nate Diaz. That brings in the money value right off the bat, right? As far as his boxing goes, I'm one of those people I actually think Jake Paul would be better at MMA than he ever would be at boxing because everything he does at MMA and boxing is wrong. He's just fought the right opponents because when he gets in a clinch, how many times did Nate just constantly hit him over the top because he would put his hand up on the wrong side every time. And I'm screaming, how many times do you have to get in a clinch and you keep leaning and putting the wrong hand up? He's putting it up on the side he's leaning. That's not going to protect your face. and Nate Diaz was getting little pepper shots in every time. Another thing is when he goes to hold, he does underhooks like a wrestler. If you ever notice Jake Paul, when he gets in a hold, he's underhooks, which allows what? The other boxer to pepper him in the face while they're doing the hold until the ref breaks it. He wrestled most of his life, like through high school. Like him and Logan were wrestlers. That DNA is still inside of him. I don't know how he would do an MMA cage against top-level opponents. But that said, he has the DNA of a wrestler. He looks like a wrestler turned into a boxer, not a boxer turned into a wrestler. And you watch his tendencies as a fan who's been watching this forever, as somebody who competed when I was younger in different things, it drives me crazy because I'm like, man, how has he been training for 3 years with top-level boxers and nobody's taught him how to, like, A, hold somebody, and B, put the right hand up when he's getting punched? Those are little things that if he was fighting a Tommy Fury or fighting a real boxer, that they expose and he'd be on the canvas. Jake Paul is all offense, 100% all offense, really good offense, no defense. You saw Nate get to him a few times when Nate took it seriously and wasn't just smacking him and turning over his punches. I think Jake could have a few more celebrity fights, but I think MMA is his future, and we'll see what happens with the PFL coming up. Real quick before we move on, you think Jake has success in MMA?
He could. Again, man, it all depends on the matchups. It depends on who he get himself training with and everything like that. Like I said, I think, like I know a lot of people think that Nate Diaz would just tool him up. If they did an MMA match, but the thing is, you got to remember, dude, Nate Diaz is not really a 185er. So he got up to this weight class. Well, I'm sure that's what the fight would be at 185 because I don't think Jake Paul can get any lower. So to me, still Jake Paul will still be the bigger guy, and if he gets on top of Nate Diaz, as long as he stays smart and his submission defense is all right, I mean, he could just smother Nate Diaz, But and plus 2, man, 4-ounce gloves. Jake Paul catches you, Diaz could be going down, So I mean, I still think it would be intriguing, but again, it's all about the matchups. Who are they going to have Jake Paul fight? Like I know Jake Paul thinks that he could go with some big wigs out here, but I mean, who's a free agent that the PFL can get? Because again, to me, they don't even have a middleweight division. They got rid of it. Like I think they had it the first season. Then after that, they just said, "Hey, we only got 205 now."
I can see him being comfortable at 205 though, like not having to do the weight cuts that much. I can see him doing 205.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we gotta see, but you see, PFL is getting into the 125 division for women. They got themselves into the women's 145. So I mean, hey, they might be trying to add more divisions, and if you do this Bellator merger, then there you go. You're gonna have a bunch of middleweights. What are you gonna do? You're gonna say, all right, guys, we have a middleweight division. You got to bounce. I don't think so. So maybe next year they're gonna have more. They're gonna have more weight classes.
Yeah, we have a lot to figure out. That turns me to my final subject of the day, which it's about Amanda Serrano switching over to PFL. She's still going to do boxing, but she's also kind of like Clarissa Shields, do a little bit of both. She's going to go switch back to MMA. She's undefeated as an MMA fighter. I believe 2-0, 3-0.
I believe 2-0.
Both in the flyweight and strawweight division. We've seen the flyweights pop up in the recent weeks in the women's division you were talking about. So she could compete at either one. My question really would be where she competes, because she's moved through 7 or 8 different weight classes in boxing. She's a little bit bigger, of course, at the women's, was it welterweight? I think she's undisputed welterweight champion in women's boxing, or featherweight. I'm sorry, featherweight, undisputed featherweight. Of course, their weight divisions are different in boxing and MMA. I don't know if she has the muscle to cut down.
She said, yeah, she says she's fighting at 125.
Yeah. It depends who they bring in the division, right, Brandon? Like, who are they going to bring in to compete with her? We saw a couple fighters this time. Of course, if they merge with Bellator, that's a whole rack of other fighters, people that come and go and want that big payday. Because she got signed to the super fight division, which is, I feel like PFL is taking a boxing approach to pay-per-view next year. Like you talked about the divisions, 185. I don't think that really applies to their pay-per-view division. I think it's about the biggest fights they can make. Francis Ngannou versus whoever they put in there, whether it's a Derek Lewis coming over for a one-fight deal or whether it's one of these other heavyweights they have. They signed Bellator. They signed with Bellator. You're talking about Ryan Bader sitting right there and some other names. Maybe Fedor comes out for one more fight. There's a lot of money on the table. I feel like they're trying to take a boxing approach to these super fights in this pay-per-view. Kayla versus Cyborg, and a lot of these things they can do if they do merge with Bellator. As all the fighters are actually the ones leaking it out. Like it's pretty much seems to be a done deal. So we'll see what happens with that. But just on the face value alone, Amanda Serrano, who's not new to MMA, sorry, she's 2-0-1. I'm sorry. But she has not fought in MMA for a couple years. How do you think she makes the transition to some higher level competition?
I mean, I think she'll do exactly like how she did before. Like, I mean, we shall see.
She can grapple. She can grapple.
Yeah, like say, I know. I think she's done. I think she's done grappling matches as well. I believe she's undefeated because I think she was calling herself a 3-sport athlete, where she was saying, you know, she's done jiu-jitsu, MMA, and boxing, and I think she was trying to say, you know, at the time she was undefeated in all of them until, you know, she met Katie Taylor. You know, but again, like I said, I mean, you know, I don't know who she was doing her MMA training with, but I'm sure she'll get back with those people again, you know, and she'll get back on the grind with it. So, I mean, hey, Amanda Serrano, this isn't her first rodeo. She, you know, she's saying she's been down this path before. So I think she'll be able to be all right.
I think she was training. So she's from Brooklyn, of course, in Puerto Rico now. Born in Puerto Rico, but lived a lot of her life in Brooklyn. I know she had done some stuff with Felix Trinidad as far as training for boxing. I'm not so sure who she was training with for MMA. See real quick. Give me a second. I know she started doing MMA when she did the movie Fight Valley, the one that had Misha and Holly and Cyborg and all that stuff in there. Kind of triggered her interest in it. Of course, she also considered kickboxing as well. Doesn't say who. Oh, she was training under Luis Ruiz in the Gabriel Marte at the dojo in NYC. So she was at the dojo in NYC. Look, athlete, right? Amanda Serrano was an athlete, like top level athlete. She can do anything she puts her mind to. And you saw it the way she destroyed Heather Hardy with her hands. This girl, you know, she originally was going to sign with Combate Americas, can now Combate Global. So MMA is not a fluke. Katie Taylor, you have to go all the way back to Frida Wahlberg before her other loss in 2012. Like, this girl wins. She beats everybody in front of her. I have no doubt that she'll be successful in MMA. And I think she might even be a champion if she really puts her heart into it. Because she's basically run through everybody not named Katie Taylor in boxing. I know there was the one woman, I'm sorry, I forget her name. I'm not as big of a boxing fan. Who was the girl at ringside that was calling her out? Do you remember?
No,
Leah something. I hadn't heard of her before. I know I looked her up and know she's a top contender, but women's boxing has kind of elevated, but it isn't still on the level of men, right? Like, there's better paydays now for women's boxing. A lot of that, I think, to Jake Paul and Amanda Serrano. Clarissa Shields is cashing in now with some of her, Katie Taylor with some of her fights. But that's 3 names. There's a whole rack of other women boxers who aren't getting that spotlight. Even this fight with Heather Hardy, Amanda gave it to Heather because they're friends from way back, and she wanted her to get paid. Well, she got paid to get beat up. Amanda's the real deal. So we'll see how she does. And then that kind of just finishes off the thought. Next year, you know, there's going to be a lot of super fights. So I'll be interested to see how PFL handles that. Before we get out here today, you think the merger goes through?
I don't know, man. I mean, I know, man. I heard, man. I know people want the Khan family to get involved, but they've been quiet on things. You know, I don't know, man. Well, I guess I'm just eager to just wait and see what happens.
I think the announcement's next week. I think they got a press conference scheduled at some point in the middle of next week, before their next round of playoffs. So we'll see. Guess we'll find out sooner or later. Real quick, next weekend, of course, Bellator back in action. Speaking of Bellator, they got Logan Storley and Brennan Ward headlining Bellator 298. The UFC Vegas 78 with a really good fight. Vicente Luque coming back from injury against Rafael Dos Anjos, I'm sorry. So a couple good fights to check out this weekend. Bellator on Friday and UFC on Saturday. Brandon, any final words before we get out of here today?
Yeah, man, just keep rocking with us, guys. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, let the people know where to find us. And man, hit up that shop, man. Get that mechanic merch, man. September 30th is going down. Strap season. Zach Kelly, you're in for it. You know what it is, man. This is the fight you want. You're gonna get it, but you're not gonna like it.
I love the promo at the end. I'm not even gonna add to it. On that note, I'm Mike Gain. That's the mechanic, Brandon Catino. This is Art of MMA, and we're out.